Hey everyone, welcome back to another session. Today we're going to be covering Python virtual environments, a brief rundown of MongoDB and the difference between Nosql and Sql databases, as well as a demo on how to integrate Flask with MongoDB. So Python virtual environments are a way for you to create separate Python environments for your projects depending on the needs and requirements. So say for example, you have a Flask web application, and you want one project to use Flask 1.1.1. You put that on one Python virtual environment, and say you want another project to use the latest version of Flask, you put that in a separate virtual environment. So let me show you guys how to create a virtual environment. So I'm going to start off by making a new folder on my desktop to put this new virtual environment in. Let's call it environment. Why not? So I'm going to go to that directory, and I'm going to type the command python-m vnv. That's saying you want to create a virtual environment, and let's give it name new environment, new env. And after a minute, it should work. Yep. So let's look in the folder now. So we have our virtual environment called new env, new environment, and we have a bunch of these folders, scripts. So now you want to activate our new virtual environment. So what you do is you change directory. You go into the new virtual environment, and you go into the scripts directory, and there in here the scripts directory there's a file called activate.bat. So just simply run that, and now you're in your new virtual environment. You could tell this because you see over here it says new env, so it means you're in your virtual environment. So let's look at all the Python packages installed. See, we only have pip and setup tools. Now let me show you something else. When you don't specify a Python virtual environment, your packages are stored what's called globally. So if I just run Python, say like about a virtual environment, I would be able to access all of the Python packages I have stored globally. So let me just give you an example. Look. So if you look on the right side, these are all the packages I have installed globally. And notice how they're not here at all in our new virtual environment. So see here I have Flask 1.1.2, right? So let's say I want to install an earlier version of Flask. So I do pip install Flask 1.1.1. Now I do check my packages. Now I have Flask 1.1.1, but if you look over here, I have Flask 1.1.2. So what I did, I created a virtual environment, and I installed a separate version of this package that I only want for this project. So yeah, it's pretty much in a nutshell how to create a Python virtual environment. So next thing we're going to be talking about is the difference between a NoSQL database and a SQL database, and as well as a brief kind of introduction to MongoDB. So according to the MongoDB website, let's see here. Here are some of the differences between a SQL and a NoSQL database. For one, SQL databases have fixed rows and columns that are stored in tables, and NoSQL databases store JSON-like documents with key pair values. And here's an example of this. So I'm in my local one of my local MongoDB databases. It is storing recipes, and here's an example of a JSON file. You see how there's key pair values. There's title, maple smoked salmon, calories. You see key pair, key pair, key pair, and you could store a lot of different types of information in these key pair values. So you see here, I'm storing a string, maple smoked salmon. Here I'm storing an int. I could also store an array. So here's an array of strings. Here's an array of objects. So it's really flexible. And also each of these entries into this database, they don't have to all be the same. So like, you see how this one has calories per serving? I could have one recipe on here without calories per serving, or I gotta have one recipe on here that adds an extra key pair value. So say like I don't know, rating. Well, there's already rating, but you see what I mean here. All the key pair values don't have to be the same. Like it's really flexible. So let's go back to here and see some more differences. So some examples of a SQL database is MySQL, Postgres, and then NoSQL databases or MongoDB. Some of the let's see, SQL is general purpose, while NoSQL general purpose, key value, large amounts of data. Yeah, you can read this all here. I'll link this at the end of the discussion. SQL databases are good for scaling vertically. NoSQL databases are good for scaling out horizontally. And here are also some of the benefits. Flexible data models, like I talked about here, with these JSON files. Horizontal scaling. These databases are good for horizontal scaling. And faster queries. It's also easy for developers. So yeah, that was kind of a brief rundown of like NoSQL versus SQL. So now I'm going to give you kind of a brief rundown of MongoDB in general. So MongoDB stores JSON files, JSON-like files, and each one of these files is called a document. So this right here, I'm highlighting, this is one document. So maple smoked salmon is a document, tacos is a document, pancakes is a document. Each one of these is a document, and a collection of these documents is called a collection. So here, recipes is the collection. It's a collection of multiple documents. Like I said, this is a document, this is a document, this is a document, and they're stored in this collection. And collection is multiple documents. And the collection is stored in a database. So the database here is Cooker. Here are all these collections that I have in the Cooker database. So yeah, that's how data is stored in MongoDB. So just another brief rundown. What we have here is multiple documents are stored in what's called a collection, and a collection is stored in a database, which in this case is Cooker. You can see it visually here using MongoDB Compass. We also do this through the command line too. So type in Mongo, show DBS, show my databases, use Cooker. Now I'm in the Cooker. So let's see, db.cooker. So if I remember the command, it's find. Okay, whatever. I clearly forgot the command, but you can also do this through the command line. You're not limited to MongoDB Compass. So yeah, this is how MongoDB works pretty much in a nutshell. And the next thing we're going to cover is how to integrate a Flask web application with MongoDB. So yeah, let's get ready for that. Alright, so now let's get started with configuring um, configuring some code to connect a Flask web application to MongoDB. So the first thing we're going to start off with our import statements. So first let's import Flask. So from Flask import Flask. Let's import request, and let's import JSONify. Also from Flask we're going to import from Flask Mongo Engine. This extension allows us to connect to MongoDB. For Flask Mongo Engine, we are going to import Mongo Engine. And if you don't have Flask Mongo Engine, it's a simple pip install mongo-engine. So yeah. So let's also import JSON too. This comes with Python. You don't have to worry about pip installing this. So now let's configure the app, and let's configure the database settings. So we'll do app equals flask underscore name underscore, and now let's configure MongoDB settings. So it's app.config. Here it is. MongoDB underscore settings equals. So let's get the database we're going to be using. If this database like doesn't already exist, it'll automatically be created. So let's just create one. Why not? And this database is going to hold our hackers for our hackathon. So let's do hackers. We're also going to specify the host. Since we're running this locally, our host is going to be localhost. Localhost. And now we're going to specify the port we want to use. And the port we want to use is going to be port, I believe it's 27017. You can verify this by going into Compass. Here we go. You see? Localhost port 27017. Alright. And that's it. So let's end that. Okay. Now let's get the database running. We'll still do db equals Mongo engine. There we go. And now let's initialize the app. db.init.app. App. Perfect. So we're creating a fictional hackers database that's going to store information for our hackers for a hackathon. So let's create a model. Let's call a model to store some information. So let me show you how it goes. So our model is going to be called user, and we're going to use, and our user model, it's going to be a document. So remember how we went to over here and I showed you this is a document. So our user is pretty much like a template for a document. So our user is going to have a name and an email just to make things simple. So let's give him a name. Name equals db dot string field. So what this does is that it makes sure that only the name can be a string field, like nothing else. Can't be an int, can't be a double, only strings. And let's do the same thing here with email. Email equals db dot string field. And you're not only limited to string field, there's int fields, I think, there's datetime fields, decimal fields, I think URLs. You can see all this in the documents. This helps with input validation. Make sure the only thing that's getting put in there is what's supposed to be in there. So in our case, it's a string. And let's also create a function so we could create a JSON with this information. So to JSON self, and it's going to return the name, self.name. Oh, I don't want to do that. And let's do email. There we go. So this function pretty much just returns this information in JSON format. Okay. So now that we got this taken care of, let's actually create a function, a route. A function and a route. Yeah, that's going to create a user and add it to our database. So let's first create the route app.route. If you don't remember doing this, you can look back at the last video. We went over how to create routes. So our route's just going to be home, and we are going to use methods equals put. So last time we went over the different types of HTTP requests. We went over get and post. Get retrieves information from the web server, and posts information on the web server. So what we have here now is put. Put's really similar to post. They both could create or modify information. They're really similar. So if you're interested in the difference between put and post, I encourage you to research the differences if you're interested. So, but for this route, we're going to use put. So now let's call it create underscore record. And now what we want to do is we're going to get the record from the we're gonna get their information from the Flask request, and we're gonna put into the MongoDB. So record equals JSON.loads request data. So what this line does over here is it takes the Flask request and it turns it to a JSON with JSON.loads, and it puts it into this record variable. I'm going to show you guys like how this works using Postman. I'm going to use this app to send the put request so you guys can see. Have the start up in the background. And now that we created the record with the JSON format, now we got to insert it to the database. So we are going to make a user. We're going to follow our template over here and add this JSON to the template. So user.objects name equals record. Name and email equals record email. So we're putting information from this JSON into our template. We're getting the name from here, record name, and we're getting our email from here also. So now that we have our template set up, let's gonna save it. So we're gonna do user.save. There we go. Now this saves it into the database. And once we save the information to the database, we're gonna have the function return to us the JSON file of the user we just inputted. So JSONify user dot to underscore JSON oh I really messed up that one. To underscore JSON. And there we go. Can't type. Okay, there we go. So this function comes from our model over here. Alright, perfect. So now our function is finished. We still need to put this one line of code just to make sure everything could run. If underscore name underscore equals underscore main app dot run. So if all goes well, this should run, and we should be able to see how to insert a user into the database by calling on this route. So first, let's see if this runs. Back to desktop, we're gonna do Python mongo. No, what do I call this file? Hacker.py. Hacker.py. Okay, so it says that we are running this Flask application on over here, this address. So to test this out, what we're gonna do, we're gonna copy this over here. We're gonna put it into Postman. It's already in here from last time I was playing around with it. And since we're using a put method to a put HTTP method to send information to Mongo, we're going to switch this over here to put. Make sure there's no parameters, and we're going to send our information over here. So look, we already have a name. Let's just use Arjun again. I used him last time. And our hacker, I'm going to give him an email. It's going to be Arjun at gmail.com, because why not? Okay, so now we have, this is the information that we're going to send to the database, and hopefully a record with his information is going to be put in. So let's go ahead and send it. Oh no, what did I do? I messed up somewhere. Let me go check my code real quick. line 3, column 5. What did I do? I'm going to pause this real quick, fix this saying. Let's get back to the demo. Okay, guys. So sorry about that. I'm back. So here's what I did wrong. So over here I had a dot objects, and that's not supposed to go there. So that messed it up. And another thing, when you're sending this information, make sure there's a comma right here. I'm not sure if I had a comma last time. So I sent this out already, and I got Arjun's information back, so that means he should be there in our new database. So let's check. I'm going to refresh it. And we have our hackers, and we have in the user collection, we have Arjun. So let me show you guys in action. We could create another user. We're just going to put Adam. Why not? Adam. There we go. And my email is going to be adam@gmail.com. That's not my actual email. Don't try to email me. And let's send this out and see what we get. And we get my information back. So recall here, once our function saves the information, it returns to us the JSON. So that's what's going on here. Returns to us the JSON. So now refresh our database again. There you go. Adam appears. I'm now a hacker. So what we just did was create a hacker. So now let's say we want to search for a specific hacker. How are we going to do that? We're going to create another route, and we're going to figure out how to do that right now. So let's do app, not arp, app dot route. Route's going to be right here. And this time we're going to use, let's see, get, because we want to get our information, which is in case our hacker information for whoever. So we're using get, and now we're going to call this query underscore records. And now let's do name equals request.args.get name. So what this line's doing right here is that we're getting the name argument, because we're going to send it with a parameter with the name of whoever we want. And so we're taking that name and we're putting it into this variable right here. And the next thing we're going to do is now find that user that we want. So user equals user dot objects. Look in these user objects where name equals name, where the name equals this name over here, and get back to the first results for that. So say if this user doesn't exist, we are going to return JSON that says error data doesn't exist. There we go. That's if we can't find anybody, if we can't find who we're looking for. But if we can find who we're looking for, we're just going to return the JSON of that person. There we go. So let's check this out. Going back over here, let's clear our body. We're not setting anything in the body. Parameters, we're going to say who do we want to search for, Adam or Arjun? Let's search for Arjun. Why not? Search for, oh wait, we're going to search for the name, where name is Arjun. And we're changing this to a get because we're getting information. That's how I like to remember it. Using get, you get information. Post or put, you're putting or posting information. That's how I like to remember it. So let's see if we can find Arjun. This is awkward. What we got here? Method not allowed. Method is not allowed to request the URL. Alright, I'll get back to you guys once again. So I'm back once again with another new breakthrough. So apparently what was causing that error, I have no idea. All I did was restart the thing, Control C, restart it, and I was able to query Argent. So I already queried Argent, so now I'm going to query myself to get Adam's information. And hopefully, if all goes well, you should see my information right there. Alright, it's there. Here's my email and there's my name. So we used HTTP GET to get information from our MongoDB database. Yeah. And what have we done so far? We've created a hacker, we've queried a hacker. So now let's go ahead and update some of our records. So say I changed my name, my name. Yep, I legally changed my name, or I changed my email, or Arjun changed his name or his email. We need to be able to update our records. So let's go ahead and do that now. Oops, you're not supposed to see that. So now let's create update. And before we do that, we should probably define the route. That would be pretty helpful. This time we're going to use post. We used put last time. Let's use post. Put creates and modifies information. Post creates and modifies information too. So it's going to use post this time. So like the last couple of times, we're going to get the record to update. JSON.loads request data. So what we're doing is we're taking the Flask Flask request, and this parses the string, and JSON.loads turn that string into a JSON and it stores it in the records variable. So here's a record, and now we're gonna update a record. So let's do this. User.objects. Okay, here's what we're doing. So with this line, we are fetching the name of the person we want to change. So let's say we want to change our email. We're fetching that person's name, so we're changing my email, so we're getting my name. This will be Adam over here. It would come from this variable. So we're getting my name, and say I don't exist. I wish. Okay. Return JSONify. Let's get an error. Let's do this. Let's take this last line. Who cares? Alright. So that's if I'm not in the database. We're just gonna return an error. And if I'm in the database, we are gonna update my email. User.update email equals record. Oh, email. And after we finish doing all this stuff, let's turn the JSON for our information like we did last couple times. And let's make this pretty. There we go. So let's test this out. Nope. Stopped it. Now let's rerun it. We're going to copy this again. If it's not over there, no parameters. We can use post. So there we go. Person we are looking to change is Adam. So name. Oh, it should be in the quotations. And let's give myself a new email. Before it was adam@gmail.com, you see, so now let's give myself, if I could type, Adam and whatever that number is at gmail.com. So let's see, we're sending a post, just like this function says, and our email should update. Let's hope this one goes smoothly. Post, here's my information, and let's click send. 3 times in a row. I wonder what that could be. Oh, here we go. Don't forget that comma. Now let's see if this works. There we go, it was the comma. It returned, it didn't update, it didn't return the updated email, but I guarantee you if we go here, refresh everything, now I have that stupid email with all those random numbers. And let's update Arjun's email. Why not? He needs a new email too. So when I run this, I should get Arjun's thing pop up here. There you go. And now he should have a stupid email once I refresh. There we go. We both have stupid emails now. So what we did was we updated our records inside of our database. So yeah, this has been fun. But now we want to delete a hacker. Our hackathon's over. We're going to delete me. So let's create a delete function. So def delete underscore records. Nope, they want to do that. And we are taking this piece of code right here. This time we're going to use delete. I'm assuming you guys can figure out what delete does. Deletes information from the web server. So what we're doing is we're going to delete me. So to start off, let's first get the record. So record equals JSON dot loads request dot data. Once again, we're taking the request, the Flask request. It's a string. Then JSON loads take that string and puts it into record. Takes that string, turns it to a JSON format, puts it in record. So now we have the record of the person we want to delete. So user equals user dot objects where the name is record. We get the name from the record. Dot first. There we go. And if the person doesn't exist, do this little error message. And if the person exists, we are going to send them to the shadow realm. There we go. User delete. And like we've been doing for the last couple times, we're just going to return their information once they're deleted. Bam. So let's go ahead and try this out. I'm going to restart this. Control C to exit. Then restart. Right, we're running. Now let's go delete. And we're deleting Adam. So, and we only need the name to delete. If we look back over here, see, we specified I only need the name. So, only my name, Adam. And we have delete over here. So let's go ahead and send this. And there's my information. That means I've been deleted from the hackathon and I no longer exist. I'm so sad. So let's check refresh, and I'm gone. I have been deleted. You know, one thing that I've actually haven't done yet, I haven't showed you guys what happens if if the user doesn't exist. So I'm gonna go delete Steve. I don't think we have a Steve. So, and let's see what we get. Data doesn't exist. Yep. You definitely don't exist, Steve. There we go. I am gone. And what we've done is demonstrated basic CRUD operations. We created a user, we found a user, we updated a user, and then we deleted them. So yeah, this kind of concludes our demo, how to integrate Flask with MongoDB. Most of this code came from a tutorial I found on Python basics. I'm going to make sure that's in the description. All credit goes to them for this. And yeah, thank you guys for watching this. I hope it was helpful.